Hi and welcome to The Courageous Collective, the podcast where we celebrate diverse women who dare to do things differently. I'm Rupa Baradva, a copywriter and communication specialist. I work with women entrepreneurs to help them get clear on their brand messaging, and I help them become more visible to their target customers using PR.
And I'm Vardeep Edwards, founder of The Branding Fox, a design consultancy that supports women in business with their branding and design needs. After working in corporate roles, we both took the leap into self-employment and created our own businesses where our skills and experience could really shine. But something we both noticed was the lack of women that looked like us at events, on speaker panels, and in the media.
Which is why we created the Courageous Collective podcast. This is our platform to celebrate and champion diverse women who are smashing it in their businesses. In each episode, we speak to a female founder about the story behind their business. We explore their inspirations, the challenges they faced and how they've dealt with them. And we talk about what they're yet to achieve.
Welcome to the Courageous Collective and enjoy today's episode.
Hello and welcome to the Courageous Collective podcast. We're thrilled you're joining us for episode 9 today. Now this episode is a little different to our usual format because there's no guest joining us in the hot seat as it's our season 1 finale. I feel like we need a klaxon or something here. We're going to chat through season 1, talk you through some of our favourite moments, and we'd love it if you could share your favourite moments too. Is there anything that made you sit up and listen? Maybe write something down from any of our guests? Do let us know on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Right, let's get stuck in then to season 1, Vardeep. Season 1 is done. How are you feeling about our podcast? Can you believe it?
I know, I can't believe where the year has gone, actually. And even when we started planning this podcast, which wasn't that long ago, I feel like we've kind of done quite a bit and it's gone really quickly. I'm quite surprised by that. But I'm so glad that we started it, and I'm really proud of ourselves. I'm proud of myself for doing a podcast because I thought it was going to be a scary thing, and actually it's not quite as scary as I thought. If we've got nearly 400 downloads so far of our podcast, which is fab. We'd like to carry on growing it, and I think we've got some really nice ideas for season 2 next year. And one of the things that really, really surprised me, and I don't know how you feel about this, we've spoken about it in terms of part of the reason why we did this podcast is that there weren't enough people, and women particularly, who looked like us in our industries, growing up, growing our careers. And I was quite surprised just how much that resonated with other people as well. And I'm so glad we kind of brought awareness around that piece, and we're speaking about that, and that it has helped other people as well to think about it from that perspective. So what about you, Rupa? What do you think? How did you think it's been, and do you think it went as well as we planned it?
Yeah, so I'd agree. I think we were from the start quite courageous in actually putting ourselves out there. We spoke about this idea of doing something, having some form of platform. We weren't really sure what it was, and we kind of settled on a podcast. And then we had to put ourselves out there. And now when I listen back to the kind of older episodes, like, it's incredible. Like, we've grown as people as well in this time. So, feeling a bit more confident about speaking to this microphone in front of us, being able to interview our guests and really get them to share their stories. It's been an incredible process, and yeah, totally not what I was expecting. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but it has been a really insightful, interesting initiative that we've kind of undertaken. And also, I think if we go back to why we created it in the first place, as you said, we wanted to create a platform for women like us, women who were from ethnic minority backgrounds, who are creative business founders. And we wanted to share their stories because we both found that there just wasn't that many women like us in the rooms and spaces that we were, attending. And I think it's been eye-opening because there are so many incredible women out there, and they're in all different types of industries, doing different things, and they've got really interesting stories to tell. Like, I've learned so many things which I probably wouldn't have without the podcast. So I'm hoping that's the same for our listeners as well. And I hope that, we've provided that, because I guess that's what the purpose is of this kind of podcast, which I think brings us nicely onto kind of our listeners and any feedback. So did you want to just share maybe some feedback that we've received?
Yeah, it's been really positive, actually, and I had quite a lot of feedback about how people like what we're doing, and that nobody else has been doing it, which is also surprising in this day and age. So I think that's good for us, that we're actually are filling a gap and that it's needed as well. But also just how the different stories that we've covered resonate with people in different ways, how there's been quite a lot of common themes that overlap between all of the podcast guests as well. I've had quite a lot of feedback around how some of the episodes have inspired others as well to kind of take the leap, be a bit bolder, take a risk, be a bit more courageous, which is great. Just to see other people doing the things that perhaps somebody else wants to do or hadn't thought about doing, and just hearing the stories and how other people will tackle it. And it's also the range of those stories as well, and really highlighting the fact that everybody's business and career journey is different. There's no one set way. There's no one path. You make your own path and journey and success and whatever that looks like. And it's really inspiring to see how different people tackle that and what they've had to overcome to be able to get to where they are, and that will be different for each person. And so I think it's been really, really good in terms of the feedback that we've received, and been overwhelmingly positive. And we've interviewed some incredible women, haven't we, Rupa?
Yeah, we
do you want
have.
to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, we have. I mean, when we first started this, we had like a very, very long list, and we had to have our kind of short list. And the exciting thing is that everyone we approached said yes. So I feel like even just that was incredible. But yeah, 7 women, all from very different backgrounds, all running their own business. And as a collective, which is what we would refer to them as going forward, they're really an outstanding group of women, not only for the caliber of their businesses and, their skills and experience that they bring, but also their generosity and their time, for sharing their stories and their advice. I think when we originally recorded episode 1, we talked about how sometimes in the past we found that it's difficult to find out what other people are doing, and there's almost a sense of, you need to keep things to yourself, and you don't necessarily share things because that will then help you get ahead. But actually what I've found is that through these interviews, there's just an abundance of work. There's an abundance of things to do out there. And actually our collective have shown us that sharing is all in spirit of that. It just helps elevate not only them, but the people around them and the people that are obviously listening. So I think that's been really a nice, genuine kind of kind connection that we've created with these women. I think also, it's exciting. It's exciting to hear about someone's business and like what they're doing, what they're kind of planning, their goals, to have those kind of conversations. I don't think I've really ever done that before, not on this scale anyway. And to hear that actually there's certain things that these women do consistently, in order to be successful business owners. Again, I think that's been really insightful and helpful. So yeah, I think overall an incredible bunch of women, definitely women who I think we will come back to those interviews time and time again, because I think they've all shared really insightful nuggets. Which I guess brings me on to, what's your favorite, if you have one, your favorite guest episode so far, and why?
It's tricky to highlight one particular one, because I think all of them are obviously valuable, and I've got different nuggets of information that you can take away from them. I think the one that sort of stuck with me for a while is Advita's one. a lot of the reason, I suppose, is because I was nodding a lot in her interview, and I remember just go, "Yep, yes, yep, absolutely, yep, great,
Yeah.
yes." So, so I think a lot of what she spoke about really, I really connected with. Um, and she also spoke a lot about taking a risk, being bold, and that can sort of take different levels, can't it? I think, to be courageous is sometimes just taking that first step.
Mm.
And I just think that's a really interesting idea in business in general, just putting yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone and see what happens. And I love the fact that she had that she read the book of Year of Saying Yes, and that's what she did. And I think that's brilliant. It shows a bit of risk taking, shows boldness, also shows just being open and creative and a bit curious to see what happens, because you never know. And I think that's the beauty of running your own business is, you can have a little bit of play and flexibility around it, because it's, that path isn't linear. Do you have a favorite at all, Rupa?
Yeah, so I also loved Advita's episode. I thought, completely agree for all of those reasons. My favorite was way back when we did our first interview, and that was with Krishna Solanki. And Krishna just brought the fire. She was passionate. She was she brought the energy. And I think she was a great first episode because she really showed again what's possible, stretching the boundaries, the challenges. She really showed what's possible to do with a small business, and actually how she's planning on growing and building it more into kind of an agency. She's very much in the driving seat, but she talked about, the strategic decisions that she has to make. I love the fact that she talked about networking, and I still love her brilliant tip, which I've used on a number of occasions now, which is basically to draw a smiley face on my kind of name badge when I go to networking events, because it's a really good talking point. But I think with Krishna, she really was inspiring to me because she's probably a few years further ahead in her business than I am. But she just gave me a lot of food for thought, things that I hadn't really necessarily considered. Her business model, not necessarily something I would maybe consider at the moment, but even just the steps that she's taking to get there were incredibly interesting. And she's doing all of that as a sole trader. And I think that in itself was really inspiring. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed Krishna. I think the other guest that I really liked, and I think about this episode quite frequently, is actually Anita Poppert. And Anita, who is a social media strategist coach, she focuses on working with introverts. And her whole kind of premise around introverts and, managing energy, again, something I've kind of heard about, but not really ever delved into. Anita's conversation really piqued my interest and actually piqued my curiosity. And I have done a bit more reading around that subject. And I think that's what I really love about these interviews, is that they're kind of, tiny little nuggets of things. And then you listen and you might go off and listen to another podcast or a book or something related to some of the themes that have come up. And that's what, I really liked about Anita's podcast. And that, I guess, brings us nicely onto kind of some of the themes that have come up in our podcast interviews. So our guests have shared so much with us. We weren't really expecting to find consistent themes, but we have, haven't we?
Yeah, that's not what we set out to do at all. Our original idea was to be able to share the stories from diverse women running their own creative businesses. But yeah, after a few episodes, we noticed, didn't we, that there was some common themes that just kept coming out again and again. And some of those were about imposter syndrome, for example. And I know I have suffered from that, absolutely. I know other women who have also suffered from that. So it seems to be quite a common idea, thing that business owners, I don't know whether they're more female or male, but certainly seems to be something that everybody struggles with at some point or another and has some sort of impact on us running our own businesses. Rachel Harvey in particular talked about how our brains are hardwired to believe these negative stories, that we're not good enough, and that we can't be successful, etc., which was really interesting and could be tied to that whole imposter syndrome, as well as perhaps, social media and seeing online and, the comparison side of things as well. So it's a really interesting part of that business, running your own business kind of landscape to navigate. Like resilience as well. I suppose you've got to be resilient. That was something that I noticed came up with quite a few of the interviewees as well, is to kind of, you're carrying on and you're being courageous in that. Yes, got imposter syndrome, might have a bit of a dip in my confidence, but I'm still going to carry on. I'm still going to believe. And I thought that was a really interesting aspect of it as well. So, yeah, was there anything that kind of came up for you, Rupa?
I think confidence, definitely. I mean, as you said, imposter syndrome, I think we all suffer from it at some point. And actually, I remember going back before we published our first episode, I don't know if you remember, but I had a major wobble about hitting publish. And I don't know why or what, or, it was suddenly like we were putting ourselves out there in this different way. We both have online businesses, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, but this was different. We were putting ourselves out there, and it was terrifying. And I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, people are going to hear me speak, they're going to hear us do this thing that's been in our head for months. And that was really terrifying. But I think, well, first of all, I'm glad that we hit publish, and I'm glad that you took me off the ledge and said, it's going to be okay. But I think upon listening to all these episodes again, confidence and imposter syndrome and all those kind of mindset issues, these are common things. And actually, sometimes when you're on your own as a sole trader and you're sitting at your desk and you're kind of working away or on the phone or, whatever it is that you do sometimes get in your own head a little bit, and you do feel like this is only happening to me. And, you're telling yourself, as Rachel Harvey was saying, those negative stories, and sometimes it's very difficult to see the light. But I think these interviews have shown us that actually, there are things that you can do, tangible things that you can do to help you build, I guess a plan, a strategy to kind of help you out of that. I think it was Advita that shared, and also maybe Krishna that shared about having some kind of good news folder on their computers, on their phones, which has lovely messages, testimonials, little things that, just give them a little bit of a boost and, make them feel like actually you're not crap, you're not rubbish, you're actually really good at this thing that you're doing. Keep on going, really. Yeah. So, I definitely agree. I think the themes totally resonated, and it's exciting to hear that they resonated with our listeners as well, because, sometimes you do feel like, is this going to land? But the feedback that we've had, I've had people come up to me and say, really enjoyed listening to that episode because I felt like that at this particular moment in my life. So I think that's really good. I think we're tapping into something that's, of interest and connects with people. Yeah. Which is really exciting, isn't it? Because what are we going to do next year? Focus on that a bit more, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting, and it's helped us to realise that there's more to cover in our podcasts around, interviewing these women and more incredible women for next year as well. So when we return in 2024, we'll be planning our season 2. We want to reach more women of colour who are business founders. We are also planning on increasing the frequency of our episodes. So there will now be one every fortnight. Just to scare you a little bit more, Rupa, it's all going to be fine.
Can I just say, our admin is going to increase twofold because this podcast podcast is wonderful to host and run. And, I love having these conversations, but behind the scenes, people, there is a lot of admin. So, we'll be working on our admin skills over the next few months to help us with that. But yay, more episodes.
Yeah, so we're still going to be interviewing these incredible women.
Yeah, and I think, that's really important. We want to keep the guest interviews up, but at the core of the podcast, we also want to have more focused topic episodes. So like we talked about imposter syndrome, confidence, mastering your mindset. We really want to spend some of our podcast episodes sharing tips, advice, and also, frankly, reassurance, making you feel like you're not the only one that feels this way. So we are going to be running kind of more themed episodes. We want to help you feel courageous in running your business, taking the leap into self-employment if you haven't already. And we hope that our themed episodes will help you do this.
Yeah, so we're planning season 2 now, and we are on the lookout for our next collective of incredible guests. We want to hear from you or someone you know who wants to join us on the podcast. If you're a woman of colour and run your own creative business, we would love to hear from you. We do have a short form that you can fill out. The link will be in the show notes for you to complete.
And before we wrap up the episode, we wanted to share something that we've been working on that's pretty cool, if we say so ourselves. We wanted to celebrate season 1 in style. We wanted to bring, obviously, Vardeep's design skills, my copywriting skills to the core as well. So we've created a special poster featuring our brilliant season 1 collective and a sprinkling of their inspirational quotes. And we really hope that this is something that you would be, interested in. So how can people get it?
Well, so there will be a link again in the show notes and you can download the poster. We really hope it's useful and inspiring for you to just give you a little bit of flavour of what the Courageous Collective podcast is about, as well as saying thank you to our guests, because we absolutely appreciate the time and the effort that they've given us for this season 1 and taking a chance with us as well, being a brand new podcast, and also to our listeners, just to appreciate the time that people are taking to listen. And we hope the episodes inspire you or have motivated you to take some sort of action. And we're always, we love to hear people's feedback. So do let us know. We are on Instagram. Come and find us. We will be back in the new year with season 2, featuring more incredible guest interviews. And as always, advice and tips to help you feel more courageous about your creative business. So thank you, and thanks for listening, and we hope to have you back on soon. Thank you for listening to today's episode. The Courageous Collective is created by Rupa Paradva and Vardeep Edwards. We really appreciate your feedback, so please like, share, and follow us. Please also subscribe to receive an alert for our next episode.
You can find out where to follow us on social media in the show notes, and if you'd like to be a future guest, please do get in touch. Thanks, and see you soon.